movie Unmasked, the killer of Ravindra Matre.
In 5G, we have to stand with the world, and in 6G, we have to lead the world.
Winning a Grammy was an absolutely surreal experience.
Hello and welcome to this brand new edition of Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna. As always, we have a packed show for you with all the top news stories from around the globe. Let's get started with our big focus. Days after the assassination attempt on him, former US President Donald Trump made a stellar entry at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. As he walked in with a bandage strapped on his ear and looking triumphant after surviving Saturday's assassination attempt, Trump received a hero's welcome. The party formally declared Trump to be the Republican presidential nominee for the November election. He entered the convention arena with a raised fist and to the strains of a live performance of God Bless the USA. He then walked through cheering crowds of delegates, some with tears in their eyes. The audience too pumped their fists and called out, "Fight, fight, fight," echoing Trump's cry after a bullet grazed his ear at a rally in Pennsylvania over the weekend. Things are looking brighter for Trump with every passing day. He is riding an unmistakable wave of political momentum, while President Biden is desperately fighting off an internal revolt within the Democratic Party. Trump is on a high following the surge of support for him and recent legal victories. The news for Trump keeps getting better. Before the convention officially opened, news broke that a federal judge had dismissed criminal charges against the former president for stashing more than 300 classified documents at his Florida estate after his first term in office. A big win for Trump, who now faces no prospect of another criminal trial before Americans go to the polls on the 5th of November. Trump has also picked his running mate and vice presidential candidate, Ohio Senator JD Vance. His name was announced hours before the Republican convention began. In a break with recent tradition, Trump waited until the convention to announce Vance's name and revealed his choice on his Truth social network. The Ohio senator and author of best-selling memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, reportedly heard he was selected just minutes before the announcement. His wife, Usha Vance, is an attorney of Indian origin. Interestingly, Vance was a strident Trump critic till not too long ago. Among many things, he has called Trump America's Hitler. He also said Trump committed serial sexual assault. He called him one of America's most hated, villainous, douchey celebs. And in a since-removed set of tweets, Vance harshly criticized Trump's response to the deadly 2017 white nationalist rally in Charlottesville, something that Vance now defends Trump over. But Democrats, it seems, are going to make an issue of Vance's anti-abortion views and connections to big tech during his career as a venture capitalist. President Biden said Vance talks a big game about working people but would raise taxes on ordinary Americans while cutting taxes on the rich. Speaking to reporters, Biden called Vance a clone of Trump. Meanwhile, during an interview with NBC News, President Biden said it was a mistake for him to have said, "It's time to put Trump in the bullseye." This happened last week during a call with donors, just days before Trump was nearly killed. But Biden blamed his opponent for ratcheting up political rhetoric for his denials of the 2020 election result, promises to pardon the rioters who attacked Capitol Hill on 6 January 2021, and for joking about a serious assault on the husband of Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi. Trump is expected to deliver the closing night convention speech on Thursday night. It will be his first public address since the assassination attempt and will be closely watched. Trump has said the speech he's going to deliver will be vastly different from the one he had prepared before the attack, and that he wanted to use this episode as an opportunity to unite America. Can Trump really unite the United States? Does he truly intend to? His critics say his choice of running mate doesn't suggest so.
Donald Trump drew cheers during the first night of the Republican National Convention on Monday, 2 days after a would-be assassin grazed his right ear with a bullet. Trump entered the Milwaukee venue with a bandaged ear as GOP delegates and faithful stood with a roaring ovation. Many chanted "fight, fight, fight" and pumped their fists, referencing Trump's reaction in the moments after he was wounded on Saturday at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania. The former president mouthed the words "thank you" to the crowd before shaking hands with his freshly picked running mate, U.S. Senator JD Vance, next to him.
Our nominee for the 47th President of the United States.
Trump is due to formally accept the party's nomination in a primetime speech on Thursday to face Democratic President Joe Biden in the November 5th election, while Vance is scheduled to address the convention on Wednesday.
For the office of Vice President of the United States, Senator JD Vance.
The 39-year-old was a fierce Trump critic in 2016, but he has since become one of the former president's staunchest defenders, embracing Trump's false claims that the 2020 election was marred by widespread fraud. The Ohio senator is deeply popular with Trump's core supporters, but analysts have questioned whether he can broaden the ticket's appeal. He shares Trump's aggressive approach to politics, and his conservative statements on issues such as abortion could turn off moderate voters. The 4-day convention began less than 48 hours after a gunman opened fire at the outdoor rally, killing one supporter. The 20-year-old suspect was a registered Republican. He was shot dead at the scene, and his motive remains unclear.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for us to determine our nominee for the office of Vice President of the United States, Senator JD Vance.
Elon Musk plans to commit around $45 million per month to a political action committee that supports Donald Trump. That was according to reports by the Wall Street Journal on Monday. It says he had planned to start donations to the so-called America PAC in July. However, a Monday filing by the group showed no sign of any such donation yet. The PAC says it has raised more than $8 million so far. Prominent donors include the billionaire Winklevoss twins. On Saturday, Musk publicly endorsed Donald Trump for the presidency, hours after the Republican was shot in the ear at a rally. Trump's choice for vice president doesn't look like a natural fit with the Tesla founder, however. JD Vance last year introduced legislation to eliminate tax subsidies for electric vehicles. He wants to replace them with tax credits for US-made gasoline or diesel-powered vehicles. That would gut a key plank of the Biden administration's clean energy strategy. Tesla shares fell after the announcement of Vance as Trump's running mate.
Trump there making quite a starry appearance at the Republican National Convention. All eyes will now be on Trump when he makes the closing night convention speech on Thursday night. What is he going to say? Let's introduce our guest on Global Lens. Joining me on the show tonight is Ambassador J.K. Tripathi, former Indian diplomat. Dr. Badrul Alam, former professor and head of the Department of Political Science and International Affairs at Jamia Millia Islamia University. And completing the panel tonight is Chirayu Thakkar, doctoral candidate of International Relations at the National University of Singapore. A warm welcome to all my guests. I need to take a quick break here on Global Lens, but we are going to have a detailed conversation about the Republican National Convention on the other side.
When we talk about India, unfortunately the country has the highest burden of road crash fatalities.
तो लगभग 76% लोग pedestrians और टू व्हीलर वाले हैं जिनकी डेथ हुई है. While the highways are getting better in India, the local roads, the city roads, the town roads, these need to be improved.
This and more. Streaming on News9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
This is News9 Live, India's only digital exclusive live stream. For the early adopters, bringing you the news 24/7. For the smart audiences on the smartest TVs. News9 Live. Stream now on your smart TVs.
Hey, careful, huh? My daddy got it from abroad. Hey, disaster! How will you pay for the loss now?
In stock market, you should take risk as per your capacity and knowledge. Trade in options very carefully.
Wow, Dikra! Absolutely perfect. Take risk with full understanding.
For the very first time in our investigation, we unmasked the killer of Ravindra Matre.
In 5G, we have to stand with the world, and in 6G, we have to lead the world.
Winning a Grammy was an absolutely surreal experience.
How do you fulfill that promise? Because ultimately expectations have to be met. If you look at the political landscape, is it really changing for women? And what is the inability of the forces that dead bodies surface but not the living people?
This is News9 Live, India's only digital exclusive live stream. For the early adopters, bringing you the news 24/7. For the smart audiences on the smartest TVs. News9 Live. Stream now on your smart TVs.
Welcome back. You're watching Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna. We're discussing the Republican National Convention that is underway in Milwaukee in Wisconsin and what the weekend's assassination attempt on former US President Donald Trump means for the presidential election campaign in the country. All right, let me start with Ambassador J.K. Tripathi. Now, it really comes as no surprise that Donald Trump entered as a star the Republican National Convention. He received a rapturous applause and a hero's welcome, really. But first and foremost, what do you make of his choice of running mate? It's very interesting that JD Vance, who is now vice presidential candidate picked by Donald Trump, was not too long ago a strident critic of Trump. He's called Trump many things, amongst them America's Hitler. What do you make of this choice?
Well, you see, earlier when Trump almost defeated all the nominees for president from the Republican Party, including 2 of Indian origin senators, it was thought that maybe he will pick up one of them as his running mate, but it was not to happen. Now choice of JD Vance is it means that Trump wanted somebody who is a sort of yes man, who can interpret Trump's policies, because at times whatever Trump has been saying during his last presidency, that would not make a sense. So at least somebody who is aligned to Trump policies and who can work as a, who can serve as a, say, troubleshooter of Trump, at least when it comes to verbal diatribes by Trump. So JD Vance is nothing more than that, and that suits Trump fine, that there is somebody who will toe the line exactly in essence which Trump will direct, and also who will try to correctly interpret Trump's statements when it is required so. So I don't think now there is, I mean, there could have been any better choice for Trump. Though for Republican Party, I very much doubt JD Vance's capability. It has not been, his integrity and his capability has not been proven so far beyond doubt. But at least as a running mate of Trump, he will be successful if elected.
All right. Yes. Just as in the case of Rishi Sunak and Kamala Harris, Indians seem to be very excited about the prospect of having a second lady of the United States of Indian origin. More than JD Vance, it is his wife, Usha Vance, who is being talked about and Googled in India. One can imagine the kind of excitement that has generated here. But that apart, on a more serious note, Dr. Alam, let me ask you this question. Now, President Biden has described JD Vance, his running mate, as Trump's clone. You know, like Trump, he is an election denier. He stoutly supports Trump's theory that the 2020 election was stolen by the Democrats. And, you know, Ambassador Tripathi seems to think that the primary reason why Vance has been picked by Trump is because he wanted a yes man. Therefore, well, he makes a good choice. But like I said earlier, amongst many things, here's somebody who's called Trump America's Hitler, accused him of committing serious sexual assault, said he was one of America's most hated, villainous, douchey celebs. Why do you think Trump would pick a man who's used all these colorful expressions to define him or describe him in the past as his running mate? Do you believe that Trump had almost run out of options?
Thank you very much for inviting me to your show. I think there has been a number of instances in the American presidential history where the rival person, even if he or she has used some filthy words or something very inappropriate, they have been picked up. I can pick up 1960 election, for example. John F. Kennedy chose his rival LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson from Texas, because Texas used to be, and still is, basically a red state, meaning a Republican heavy-holder state. So he wanted that particular state, which carries a lot of electoral college votes, about 40, which it means a lot if you want to get over 270 plus. There has also been example, for example, in 1980 election, Ronald Reagan, who was the candidate from the Republican Party, his rival was George H.W. Bush, the senior Bush. He used the word voodoo economics in the debate against Reagan during the election, but still he was tapped by Ronald Reagan to be his running mate, and in fact both of them, they continued for 2 consecutive terms, 80 to 84, 84 to 88. In 2008, Barack Obama, he chose Joe Biden. Joe Biden was also a rival in the primary elections. Both of them, they fought very fiercely. They also used words against each other. But at the end of the day, Obama felt that Biden would be his running choice. Having said that, I think so there has been a number of examples in American history where a rival, even if he or she has used some very strong words against the presumptive nominee, he or she has been picked up as their running mate. So there is no, there are a number of precedents in that regard. Having said that, I still don't understand why Donald Trump, from a position or from a vantage point of advantage, chose JD Vance, because he's the senator from the state of Ohio. Ohio is one of the swing states. Ohio in 2008 and 2012, both times Obama carried that state. And that state also carries a lot of electoral college, namely 17 electoral colleges. In 1992 and 96, Bill Clinton carried that. In the last two elections, of course, 2016 and 2020, Donald Trump in the 16 election beat Hillary Clinton, and the last election he beat Biden. So I think a lot of people assume that Ohio would probably go Republican, although there is nothing guaranteed about it. Because if you look at the demography of Ohio state, from where JD Vance is a senator and now he has been tapped as a running mate, that has got places in different parts which has got heavily Democratic, for example, areas around Cleveland, around the Great Lakes. But if you come towards Columbus, Ohio, towards Dayton, Toledo, or Cincinnati, I think that areas is mostly Republican. So it depends on the voting day on November 5th, how many people are going to vote Republican on that particular day on November 5. So whether choosing JD Vance makes a strategic choice or not. So that remains to be seen. So at this point of time, I don't think Vance's nomination as a running mate is going to bring any additional votes to already energized base of the Republican Party of Donald Trump.
Okay, very interesting. Let me take this to Chirayu Thakur. Chirayu, given the electoral college system that exists in America, it is often said that almost every presidential election eventually boils down to the swing states. It has been reported in recent weeks that Trump was already doing quite well in the swing states as per the polls that have been conducted. Ohio is one of those states. That is where Trump's running mate, JD Vance, comes from. Do you believe that was the primary consideration for Donald Trump to pick Vance as his running mate? And, the widely held belief that he is primarily going to be a yes man, just the kind of running mate that Donald Trump would want on his ticket, never mind the fact that he's called Trump America's Hitler and many other things in the past.
Neha, good evening and thank you for having me. I think, again, reading Donald Trump's mind is very difficult. But if I were to make an informed assessment, usually American presidents look two things. First, how can a running mate help them meet the finish line? That's the first aspect. And if something were to happen to the president, it's the vice president who is next in line of succession and who is going to run the affairs of the country. So first, political utility, and second, role in governance. These are the two aspects that usually American presidents look when they pick. But eccentricity is a part of human behavior, and with someone like Donald Trump, I think the first and the most important quality that he would have looked is loyalty. And especially after what happened with Mike Pence. Mike Pence did not endorse whatever he was saying on January 6th. Donald Trump's cultish supporters, they went to the Capitol Hill and they were shouting, hang Mike Pence. So there was a huge rift. Donald Trump has later on said some very colorful and nasty things about Mike Pence. So one of his major concern was loyalty. And that's where JD Vance checks the box. Now, as you have rightly pointed out, he has said a dozen odd such colorful phrases about Donald Trump in the past, but he is no exception. If you look at the entire Republican Party and all the choices that Trump had, you pick Nikki Haley, you pick Ted Cruz, you pick Marco Rubio, everyone who could be a potential sweepstake, they had said things about Donald Trump in the past because nobody was taking him as a serious candidate. Nobody was expecting him to win the nomination. Nobody was expecting him to win the presidential bid in 2016, but it happened and the rest is history. And with this assassination attempt, with this sympathy wave that is already there, I think Donald Trump is at his all-time high point in this week. And that's the reason a rival like Nikki Haley, when she ended her termination, she did not clearly say that one-liner that I endorse Donald Trump, who had refused to endorse Donald Trump until now, was, as it was reported yesterday in American media, that she is going to speak at RNC in Milwaukee. So the point here is that as a registered Republican, as a prominent Republican, you do not have the choice to stay away from Donald Trump, and JD Vance is just another feature of that. And apart from that, what JD has done is that he has built some very popular, strong support who can lobby on his behalf. So Donald Trump's son, whom Donald Trump listens to, a lot of his corporate donors, someone like Rupert Murdoch, all of them have very vigorously lobbied for JD Vance's nomination, and what we are seeing is a culmination of that effort. So if I were to make sense of Trump's choice, the first thing is loyalty, the second thing is political utility, especially in Ohio and some of the other states, the Rust Belt states. Wisconsin could be one of them, Pennsylvania could be one of them, and if all goes well in favor of Trump, Michigan could be in the fray this time. So those states JD can help flip, particularly because VP candidates usually do a lot of local tele, and his own American story help sell this whole agenda that Trump is pushing. And finally, most importantly, governance. I don't think it has featured a lot. JD is a first-time senator. If you were to go by numbers, only 17 months of experience sitting in Congress. So that is not a big deal, it seems, and a lot of premium has not been placed on governance or political exposure as a major issue.
Right. So you believe that loyalty and political utility were the primary considerations for Trump in his decision to pick JD Vance as his running mate. People have very interesting takes on this on the social media. Some have even said that Trump has been accused of white supremacy, but now with JD Vance coming in, somebody who has a wife of Indian origin, that is a criticism that can certainly not be leveled against Trump's running mate or even against Trump for that matter. It ticks the inclusivity box. Okay, I need to take another break here on Global Lens, but we'll continue this discussion on the other side.
जानना है तो देखिए, समझना है तो सुनिए, सीखना है तो पूछिए, और कमाना है तो खरीदिए। जानकारी, सलाह और निवेश सब एक ही सुपर ऐप पर। पैसे का सवाल है तो जवाब है Money9। आजादी पैसे की, अभी डाउनलोड करें।
When we talk about India, unfortunately the country has the highest burden of road crash fatalities.
तो लगभग 76% लोग पेडेस्ट्रियंस और टू व्हीलर वाले हैं जिनकी डेथ हुई है।
While the highways are getting better in India, the local roads, the city roads, the town roads, these need to be improved.
This and more. Streaming on News9 plus news is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
Who am I?
Nobody can crack that mystery.
There is a certain expectation of me.
That's the only contradiction.
Life itself is stranger than fiction.
I was a perfectly normal person born in an abnormal world.
I really didn't understand why is it different.
Just imagine a child who is bullied every day.
Boys school में कुछ लड़का लोग मेरे साथ sexual abuse किए।
मुझे तेरे बारे में सब पता है और मैं तेरा रेप कर लूँगा।
You also start to stigmatize.
अरे ये तो time pass है.
Sex doesn't come in the picture. Sex comes later. Then there are man-made narratives.
Why do you walk like that? Why do you sway so much? So you can understand the trauma of a person who's trapped in a wrong body.
But nothing can bind life.
You have to reclaim the lost position. We fought for more than 10 years. Today I'm the mother of the industry. I'm a first transgender member judge.
You can't walk in everybody's shoes.
This is what I'm comfortable with.
They just are what they are.
You become the light yourself.
That is the change that I was looking for.
When I recognize myself is a small story, but it's an interesting one.
Why is the state not looking at putting an embargo on that?
As a Telangana person, I will not accept.
How do ordinary folks deal with this? Welcome back. You're watching Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna. We're discussing the US presidential elections and what happens next after Trump survived an assassination bid. Okay, let me go back to Ambassador J.K. Tripathi at this point. Ambassador Tripathi, interestingly, Donald Trump said recently that the speech that he's going to now deliver at the Republican National Convention on Thursday night is going to be vastly different from the speech that he had prepared before the assassination attempt on him on Saturday. He also said he hopes to use this attack as an opportunity to unite America. Do you really believe someone like Donald Trump, who has thus far only been accused of being a very divisive figure, can actually unite a deeply divided country like the United States? His critics say his choice of running mate doesn't suggest that he actually intends to do that. What's your take?
Well, you see, his choice of running mate, as he himself said, that one will be strongly focused on the people he has fought for. That is American workers, farmers in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Minnesota, and far beyond. That means Trump believes that in these states, Midwest states, Vance has enough influence to, enough clout to influence the election in Republicans' favor. So this is what he has been thinking. But again, all said and done, you cannot be sure about what Trump says, because whatever Trump says at times it doesn't make sense, though it is not gibberish. But what happens is sometimes he goes off the trajectory. Maybe in the speech he will bring this issue, this incident of being shot at, and he will try to gain some brownie points, some sympathy votes. But I feel that that election is still 4 months, 4 months from now. So maybe he will not. By then there would be enough time for public to forget and focus on other issues, and that's why I don't think this incident will be playing a big role in his election.
You don't think it will? That was my next question. Let me put that question to Dr. Alam. Dr. Alam, there are many who actually believe that the assassination attempt on Donald Trump has changed the trajectory of this election campaign. Some who have not even been Trump supporters all along have gone so far as to say it no longer matters who the Democratic Party now feels in the race, whether it's the incumbent President Biden or somebody else, because it's almost as if Trump has already won the election. What is your take? Is this too far-fetched a view? Though, you know, most believe that this is an incident that is going to have an impact on the election. Where do you stand on this?
Okay, thank you very much. In American election, I think 4 months is a long time. As Yogi Berra says, the legendary baseball player, you have to wait till the bottom of the ninth innings. There may be an October surprise, there may be a September surprise, August surprise. So I think in this particular convention that we see in Milwaukee, there may be few points that leap on behalf of the for Republican Party. So I think maybe we'll see a call for unity, call for inclusivity, as you rightly said, and there may be a soft Trump over hard Trump. There may be a good Trump versus bad Trump, if there is something like that. But I think in the long term, Trump will be Trump. And so that we'll see, I think, in the next subsequent weeks as the elections unfold. At the end of the day, I think, again, the election will be fought, either won or lost, based on those 6 or 7 swing states, all the way from Ohio to Michigan to Pennsylvania, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, North Carolina, Wisconsin, etc. Even Wisconsin, it has also flipped back and forth. There is no guarantee that just because your convention is taking place in Milwaukee, you are getting an automatic suit in there. So there may be a lot of turns and twists in American election, as it always takes place. Going back to your question of getting a lot of fillip in this particular post-assassination days and also from the Milwaukee convention, I remember in 1992 election when George H.W. Bush, Herbert Walker Bush, the senior Bush, he fought against a young governor from Arkansas named Bill Clinton. At that point of time, popularity rating of George H.W. Bush was about 91%. Guess what? Within few months, that popularity evaporated and ultimately Clinton beat Bush. In 2012, Mitt Romney was leading over Barack Obama. Again, it was a convincing victory for Barack Obama. I can give you many, many examples in American history in the last 30, 40, 50 years where the top dog has come back to be underdogs and underdog has also turned around to be top dogs. So I think this kind of things will go back and forth kind of things. So we'll see in the next couple of weeks and months. Again, next month, we are going to have a Democratic convention in Chicago. Again, you will see some brownie points being scored by President Biden. So I think these things will go back and forth. So I'm not going to take it per se that from this particular bonus point that Trump and Vance are going to get is going to last for several weeks. So let us see how the other events take over or how the other events take place.
Okay, 4 months is a long time in American politics, but I think we can all agree, as you said, sir, Trump is Trump. So it might be naive on anyone's part to actually expect him to now emerge as this great unifier. Let me take this to Chirayu. Chirayu, what do you think Donald Trump is going to say when he makes his first speech on Thursday night at the Republican National Convention since the assassination attempt on him? Do you believe the leopard can change his spots? The man who's built his entire political career on divisive politics, can he really emerge as a unifier in American politics? Do you think he even intends to do that? And secondly, do you believe, like many others do, that Saturday's assassination attempt may well be a turning point in this election campaign?
Yeah, on the first issue, it could be anyone's guess what Trump is going to include in his speech. But look, off late, Trump has been acting a lot in line with the script. It is not that erratic, eccentric, maverick Trump that we saw in 2016 who would not stay to the script. So at this point, it would not be only what does Trump feel personally, but what his campaign managers, what his advisors, what his people who are surrounded to him politically, what they are telling Donald Trump to say. And a major important point at this juncture is that the Republicans, they are already riled up, they are already revved up. There is a huge support, there is a huge momentum in the Trump camp. So I don't think that Trump needs to say a lot to increase that momentum. Of course, it has maxed out. Now, what Trump needs to do at this stage is he needs to increase his appeal and get some more sympathy votes from the independents, from the undecided or swing voters, and in that his extremely polarizing message would not or might not resonate. So there are only two things that could resonate there. He getting up beyond this episode and saying that we need to unite, so that sort of unifying message resonates well with those sort of independent or swing voters. That is one route. Or he continues to speak about policies, especially what he deems as failures of the Biden administration. So these are the only two things. If he sticks to the message, he can appeal to this constituency. So I think more or less this would be the line taken by political advisors, and Trump would like to stick to the script. So that's one aspect. On the second issue, look, I would not have stuck my neck out at this stage had there been someone else opposing Trump. But what we are seeing is a very difficult candidate whose political fortunes are dwindling, and he is not presenting a great show to the American people. So, a lot of statistics was presented earlier. I would also like to add to that. No American president has won the election, or a nominee has won the election with 37% approval rating. That is what Biden's current approval rating is, especially with the debate performance, especially with the gaps that followed. Even a NATO summit, the 75th anniversary, could not get the uptick and momentum in his movement. Apart from that, there is another structural condition. His donations are drying up. So we have already know that the major super PAC that donates to the Biden camp, they have said that they are not going to push for the $90 million which they have pledged if Biden continues on the ticket. So I think there are structural issues. The Democratic camp is divided. His party is revolting. Some of them hush hush, some of them in open, like George Clooney. And under these conditions, any surprise that could swing this completely in Biden's favor seems unlikely. Of course, if the Democratic Party puts their house in order, gets a new nominee, then we'll have to see what sort of dynamics that happens. Kamala Harris is currently polling nationally neck and neck to Donald Trump. Now we don't know what exactly is the situation in each of those swing states, so that could be a different dynamic. We could not predict it, but with a Biden-Trump matchup, I don't see any.
So with the Biden-Trump matchup, you are willing to stick your neck out, Chirayu, and say that yes, Trump is going to win back the White House. You do believe that, right?
I do at this point, at the high watermark, yes.
I don't blame you, especially given the events of the weekend. That's how a lot of people feel. So let me take this to Ambassador Tripathi. Ambassador Tripathi, was Saturday's assassination attempt on Donald Trump an inflection point in this election campaign? Is the momentum now clearly with Donald Trump? And where does that leave Joe Biden, who is anyway fighting off revolt in his own party?
Well, you are perfectly all right, but you see, Neha, as other participants in the debate said, that 4 months is too long a time in politics to decide, and within these 4 months many more things might happen that can turn around. Indian election system is an example in front of you. So in 4 months there might be too many incidents, there might be too many policy matters, there might be statements and opposition to that, which might turn the situation again around. So we cannot be sure. There is no guarantee that this Saturday incident will give a big bonus, a big dividend to Trump in the election race. Had it occurred little closer to the to November primary, then it would have been November elections. Then it could have been easily said that yes, Trump will gain from it. But right now, maybe this momentum, public memory is very short. This momentum might evaporate in few days. So yes, Biden's popularity rating is dwindling, it is declining, but then maybe, say, if within this 4 months Israel-Hamas war comes to an end and Biden gets credit. Though I know that American population, incidentally, they don't care much about.
You're right. Actually, that is
happening
more
outside
an
United
issue for the international community than it is for Americans. And while there has been opposition to President Biden's Israel policy, it has largely been confined to the American Muslims, who anyway would not want to vote for Donald Trump given his stand on Muslim immigrants. Let me take this to Dr. Alam as we wrap up this discussion. Dr. Alam, you said that, 4 months is a long time. We still don't know which way this election might go. But where does all of this leave President Biden? He is at his weakest point. There are many in his own party who've publicly called on him to step aside. There seems to be an internal revolt, growing concern over his age and cognitive decline. All his gaffes made publicly do not help his cause. Where does he stand as of today, following the assassination attempt on Trump, which clearly has led to a surge of support for the former president? And what are the options that you think the Democrats are really left with? Their national convention is next month.
I personally think it's not all doom and gloom for the Democrats at this point of time. As you rightly said, 4 months is a long time in politics. So all I would like to say is hold your horse. It is not over till it is all over. And again, who knows, there may be something like a spectacular, like a T20 match, if I can use that metaphor, of the Surya Kumar Yadav's catch. Things can go around. I think one of the things that I would like to stress is, I think, yes, the independent voters are important, the undecided voters are important, particularly in those 6 or 7 or 8 swing states. But I think one of the things that we did not discuss today is what is the shape of economy going to be in the next couple of months, in terms of unemployment, in terms of economy. Like a lot of times we say, it is the economy stupid. Or are you better off today than you were 4 months ago, or 4 years ago, or 8 years ago? Will you like to go back to the Reagan years or to the Trump years? So I think a lot of those independent voters, they will be deciding in the next couple of months after this all hoopla is over in Milwaukee and Chicago. Then they will take a decision after the Labor Day around 2nd or 3rd week of September as to who is likely to be perceived to be the winner in the November horse race.
You make a valid point, about the economy, immigration, jobs being real issues that actually impact American lives. But the trouble is that those are issues that the Trump campaign has steered clear of. They want to focus on emotive issues because that seems to work for Donald Trump. And given the kind of emotions that the weekend's events have stirred, you can be pretty sure the Trump campaign would want to keep things that way. Therefore, is the economy going to be a real issue in this election? Are jobs going to be talked about? If there is a ceasefire in Gaza, is that really going to change the mind of the American voters? How much of an impact will the assassination attempt on Trump have in this election? I guess those are really multiple questions blowing in the wind. One thing we can all agree on is that yes, 4 months is a long time in politics as it is in life. And yes, Dr. Alam gave that very valid example of a last over catch by Surya Kumar Yadav that won India the T20 World Cup. That can often happen in life and in politics as well. On that note, Ambassador Tripathi, Dr. Alam and Chirayu Thakkar, thank you so much for joining me on Global Lens tonight. All right, let's now turn our attention to India's neighborhood. Violence has erupted in Bangladesh and the situation seems to be worrying at the moment. At least 5 people have been killed and over 400 injured as violent clashes erupted overnight in Bangladesh between a pro-government student body backing the ruling Awami League party and student protesters who are demanding that the job quota introduced by the Sheikh Hasina government be scrapped. The police fired tear gas and rubber bullets and charged protesters with batons to disperse them. The violence spread rapidly at Jahangir Nagar University in Sawar, situated outside Bangladesh's capital Dhaka. The protesters had gathered there demanding an end to a quota which is reserved for family members of veterans who fought in Bangladesh's War of Independence in 1971. This quota allows descendants of freedom fighters to take up to 30% of the government jobs in the country. The students protesting against the quota argue that the appointments made through this reservation are discriminatory and should instead be done on the basis of merit. While some say the current quota system benefits groups supporting Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, some cabinet ministers have slammed the protesters, saying they are playing with the emotions of students. Now, reacting to these violent protests, Prime Minister Hasina today said freedom fighters should be given the highest respect. It's important to honor the sacrifice they made in 1971, irrespective of the current political ideologies of their families. She said, abandoning the dream of their own life, leaving behind their families, these freedom fighters joined the war with whatever they had. Well, the protests are only gathering steam. Protesters gathered in front of the official residence of university's vice-chancellor, where the violence first began. Bangladesh Chhatra League, a student wing of the ruling Awami League party, was accused by the protesters of attacking their peaceful protests. Reports say the ruling party's student wing and the police attacked the protesters. The protesters also blocked some highways and railways across Bangladesh and halted traffic in several areas in Dhaka, vowing to continue their protests until the government gives in to their demands. There has also been violence at Dhaka University, where more than 100 students were injured in the clashes. The quota system for the families of war veterans was put on hold after a court order following mass protests by students back in 2018. However, just last month, the country's High Court nullified the decision to reinstall the quota system, which left scores of students angry and triggered protests. Soon after, the Supreme Court stayed the High Court's order for 4 weeks, but the protests are still continuing unabated. All right, as we wrap up this edition of Global Lens, let's get you some news from the African continent. The police in Kenya have arrested a suspected serial killer. The cops say the man has confessed to murdering 42 women, including his wife, over the last 2 years, and discarding their dismembered bodies in a rubbish dump in Nairobi. Since last Friday, 9 butchered bodies trussed up in plastic bags have been hauled from the site of an abandoned quarry. And how was this alleged serial killer arrested? Near a Nairobi bar where he was watching the Euro 2024 football final.
A suspected serial killer has been arrested, Kenyan police said on Monday, following the discovery of several bodies at a quarry in Nairobi. Collins Jumaisi had confessed to killing 42 women, including his wife, and dumping their remains at the quarry, police said. The 33-year-old was said to live near the quarry in the Mukuru neighborhood and was arrested early on Monday. Amin Mohammed, the head of the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, said the alleged murders stretch back to 2022, starting with Jumaisi's wife, with the most recent on July the 11th.
It is crystallizing that we are dealing with a serial killer, a psychopathic serial killer who has no respect for human life.
Police said items found at Jumaisi's home included mobile phones, identity cards, a machete they believed was used to dismember the victims, industrial rubber gloves, rolls of sellotape, and a dozen nylon sacks similar to those in which the victims were found. 9 bodies have been recovered from the quarry so far, police said. Many local residents had been angered by rumours that the bodies, which were discovered on Friday, were linked to alleged abductions of young protesters by security forces in recent street demonstrations. A government spokesperson shared a police statement on social media on Friday, saying that authorities were analysing samples to identify the deceased and that investigations were underway.
42 murders in 2 years, and he finally gets arrested while watching a football match. Well, that's all the time we have on this edition of Global Lens. Thanks so much for watching. Do join us again at the same time tomorrow. Bye for now.
When we talk about India, unfortunately the country has the highest burden of road crash fatalities.
तो लगभग 76% लोग pedestrians और टू व्हीलर वाले हैं जिनकी डेथ हुई है.
While the highways are getting better in India, the local roads, the city roads, the town roads, these need to be improved.
This and more. Streaming on News9 plus news is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.
जानना है तो देखिए, समझना है तो सुनिए, सीखना है तो पूछिए, और कमाना है तो खरीदिए। जानकारी, सलाह और निवेश सब एक ही सुपर ऐप पर। पैसे का सवाल है तो जवाब है Money9। आजादी पैसे की, अभी डाउनलोड करें।
For the very first time in our investigation, we unmasked the killer of Ravindra Matre.
In 5G, we have to stand with the world, and in 6G, we have to lead the world.
Winning a Grammy was an absolutely surreal experience.
Kannada actor Darshan Togudeepa is making headlines not just for his alleged involvement in the grisly murder of his fan, but also for his special request while in judicial custody. This brings up the crucial question: can prisoners in India ask for special treatment? But first, what are Darshan's starry tantrums behind bars? News9 Plus decodes. Darshan, who is the prime suspect in Renuka Swamy murder case, was arrested from his farmhouse on 11 June. He is in police custody since then. Darshan recently requested the Karnataka High Court to get some home-cooked food, bed